Welcome back, everyone. Our wonderful sponsor for our Veterans Voices series, Miss Anna Olivier with Jim Olivier's Home Improvement. Welcome back.
Thank you, Lydia. I appreciate it. Today we have an amazing gentleman that is here, retired Army Major Marcel Guidry, but everyone calls him Mac. He has just an incredible story of service, over 20 years in the Army, very diverse job responsibilities and educational opportunities, and he's a Purple Heart recipient. We really want to honor him and thank him for his service, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy his story.
Yes, let's hear from Mac now and hear about his time serving 20 years in the Army. Welcome back to another Veterans Voices Spotlight this month, with the United States Army veteran, Mr. Mac Guidry. Mr. Guidry, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
And we want to hear your story. We kind of want to just start from the beginning, and it's actually kind of a funny story. What made you want to join the Army in the first place?
Well, I was, occasionally I watch TV, and when I did, I watched a show called Combat, starring Vic Morrow, and I was so amazed at what they were doing. I knew that was going to be my job, so I just wanted a backpack and a rifle, and that was going to satisfy me as a job.
You had a few different jobs, though. You were explaining to us during your time serving, your 20 years. What are some of the different things that you did in your time serving?
Well, when you first start out, you don't know what you want to do, so you kind of dragged along by some people. So when you're in a unit and it stays together, we deployed to Germany 6 months after I was in the Army, as soon as I was trained. So we spent 2 years doing that. I was a heavy weapons infantryman. We started out using rocket launchers, and then we drove tanks. We flew guided missiles, anti-tank guided missiles, and that was pretty fun. Then I came back to the States. I was assigned to New York, and it was the worst winter they had in 26 years, and I didn't like it at all. So I decided to leave the Army. Well, that didn't last long. I rejoined the Army, and they sent me to Fort Benning in the 2nd Infantry Division, and they put me in a mortar unit, firing mortars, and I didn't like that too much, so I applied for jump school. I thought that'd be something exciting to do, jump out of an airplane. So I did, and I went through the course, and I was on a graduate, so I had the privilege of staying there as an instructor. So I did that almost a year and a half, and then I knew the officer candidate school was across the street, and I said, well, that's a way to advance. So I applied, and I was accepted to the officer candidate school. And 6 months later, I was a commissioned officer. And they sent me back to the airborne department as an assistant to the guy who was running the company commander. And then my orders for Vietnam came about. That was a year of tromping through the jungles and the mud and the water and pulling leeches off of you. It was always something to do. Came back home. So 7 months later, I was redeployed to Vietnam, and I said, no, this is not right. But you got to go when you got to go. You got a contract. So subsequent to that, while I was in the States for the last time without deploying, I did quite a few things. I was in Panama for a while in a jungle warfare school. I was trained as a target analyst in nuclear weapons. I went to the advanced course for officers, and I ended up in the Command and General Staff College. I went to flight school also, which was that capped everything off. That's the epitome of a good thing. So then in September of '78, I retired, and then I needed a job, so I came back home and went to work for PHI, and I stayed there for 36 years.
And 9 years ago, you retired. So
9 years ago, I retired.
Relax.
That's right. I look at retirement as it's just a word. I call it a change in jobs.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your biggest takeaways, whether it's a lesson learned or a memory that you have from your time serving?
Well, you learn about life in the Army. It's a lot of dedication. They teach you about courage, integrity, comradeship, you know.
Yeah, in 20 years, I'm sure you learned a lot from those experiences.
Really?
Yeah. And we definitely thank you for your service, and we thank you for sharing with us today your story.
Thank you, Lydia. It's a pleasure to be here.
United States Army veteran Mr. Mac Guidry for this month's Veterans Voices Spotlight.